Hey guys, what's going on? It's fucking hump day. It's Wednesday. Woo, halfway through the week. And feels like summer's upon us for some, and man, it's been fucking hot here. So I can only imagine what it's like in other places, so stay hydrated.
There's a system in place to keep us in chains. By a show of hands, who else is sick and tired of the same? 1% trying to keep us small, trying to keep us from getting out. Minimizing the struggles they've caused, saying we're not working hard enough.
We really should stop this fighting. Otherwise, we'll miss the fireworks.
There won't be any fireworks.
And here we go.
And welcome everybody to Suck It. I am the great and powerful King of Kings, Prince of all that is awesome. Derek, how are you today on this May 26th of the year that is 2021? Whew. Like I said, it's hot and it's crazy, but to think about where we were exactly 365 days ago, beaches were closed, pools were closed if you lived in a community, everyone's wearing masks or not and fighting and BLM and everything else like that. Just, the things that have happened over the last 365 days to where we are now, things are finally starting to look better. Beaches are open, restaurants are open again, or at least here in the States. I can't speak much for where I'm talking to my guest today in Canada. But, here in the States, things are starting to look positive. And can we stop fucking fighting, please? Can we do that just for 1 second and just hug it out? Because we got some good music coming. We got some good movies coming. Comedy tours are back in full force as well. Let's just forget all the bullshit of the last year and just hug it out. And do it while listening to some great fucking music from my band that I have on with me today. By the name of Belvedere, a band that I've wanted on for a while, and I finally got them, and I'm finally happy because they're just one of the best punk bands of the last 20 years. I absolutely love them. Even back when I was, not really into the punk scene anymore, and I keep telling everybody I rediscovered punk, yeah, but there was always a few bands that I always listened to, and they were one of them. So it's been a real honor to have them on with me today because I just released a new album, which is fucking gnarly as shit. So I highly suggest you check it out. Link down below in the bio. It's fucking awesome as hell. So this is, without any further ado, let's just get right to it with a member from the band Belvedere, Mr. Steve Rawles.
Intro.
Hey, no problem, man. I mean, it's true. I mean, I always considered myself the metal guy, but there's a few bands that I've always just been like on your side of the genre of rock that have kind of kept me afloat with the But I've gotten out of the scene. But over the last year that I've been doing this show strictly on music, pretty much, bands like Counterpunch and Authority Zero and all these other bands. I'm like, oh my god, I forgot about all these bands. But you guys have always been on my playlist, so it's a real honor to have you on.
Thanks, man. That's great to hear. I appreciate that.
So, new album just dropped the 14th, and it is a fucking ripper.
Thanks, man. Yeah, last week. 14th.
I've had it on my playlist. I've listened to it probably straight through 3 or 4 times. It's just that good. And I talked to a couple other bands over the last week that have had nothing but compliments for you guys as well. called you out specifically by name and were like, man, have you checked out that new Belvedere album? They're like, damn. So, bands in California, all these other bands, DC here, everywhere, they're liking it a lot. So how are you guys feeling about it?
Really good, and that's awesome to hear. Yeah, like most bands, we're just kind of sitting waiting for some things to get rescheduled, but it's awesome to release the record, and I'm really happy at how positive the responses have been. It's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, especially now with hearing, the responses that you're getting, and then looking on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and seeing all these bands being able to go out and tour their shit now here in the States, and you guys are still fucking locked down, not being able to do much. How is that, for morale for the band?
Yeah, I mean, in our area of the country, we've never really been locked down, but the venues are been closed for quite some time now. But things are getting better, and we are hoping to see some things open up for us here in the fall, at least in Canada, and we're sort of scheduled to make up some shows in Europe, either at the end of this year or early 2022. So that's kind of the biggest thing, is just making sure that borders are open, because right now our two borders aren't open with each other as well. So that's another thing, right? So
yeah, and I guess that's what sucks the most. I mean, because all these American bands now, or or at least bands from overseas that can come here, are able to do some of these major fucking shows that are now being booked for the end of the summer or beginning of the fall. And a lot of you Canada bands, just kind of have to sit and still, and that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult at best for us to get into the States just with work visas and stuff. But
Correct.
yeah, it's tricky, So I mean, all you can do right now, we're kind of narrowing on in, like, a lot of American bands are just going to be touring the States for the next little while. Same thing in Canada, we'll be touring our own country for a while, and vice versa in the UK and EU. And so hopefully we'll start to see a little bit of crossing over here soon. So I think 2022 is probably a little more likely.
Gotcha. So you are planning on going to Europe as well?
We have 3 tours that got canceled last year, a bunch of festivals, and we're just starting to announce some of them for next summer. But yeah, we are planning to do some club shows in November and December. We'll see if that goes. If not, then we're going to push it to April next year, when we're headlining the Manchester Punk Festival. We're doing another festival in Austria, and another one. Yeah, there's a bunch. There's probably 15 that we have to make up, and we're just going to do a bunch of our club shows around it. So that's kind of the plan right now. Fingers crossed.
So how have you guys, especially a band that's been around for, however long it's been, how has it been for you guys to have been kind of stuck at home, not being able to tour, not being able to interact with your fans for the last year? I mean, what is it, especially when, like I said, a band that is so used to being out there, what has it been like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years we haven't done a lot, but we were really gearing up to do a lot. We had about 100 shows booked last year, and it sucks, right? Like, I mean, I love getting out there and I love the music, but it's the interaction with people that I really look forward to, the travel and all that. So, yeah, it's just like everybody, it's just been kind of a bummer, just trying to resort. It's tough, just not being able to do it, but then having to sit there and, rebook, it's like, and then rebooking without any end date. We don't know, like I said, we've moved a few things a few times now. So yeah, it's a bummer, but I can see a small light at the end of the tunnel, and that's good enough for me. And I run a booking agency, so in addition to Belvedere, I'm booking 20 other bands. So I have over 300 shows that are in limbo right now and are slowly getting pieced back together again. So it's a Tetris puzzle that I can't wait to be through.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of nice to be looking at that again. I mean, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there was a period of about 6 months where it was like everyone just threw in the towel and just said, call me next year. And so now that there's conversations happening between promoters and festivals and bands, it's for sure encouraging. Even though there's kind of like the stuff in the fall is a bit of a question mark still, at least you kind of know that we're going in the right direction. And even if it gets pushed a few months later, that's okay. We just want to get out there when it's safe to do.
Yeah, and like I was saying, like the stuff that's booked here, I mean, it's it's all pretty much the same bands at every single one. I mean, it's it's Metallica headlining pretty much every single one, along with this and that, and Mudvayne's getting back together for the first time in 12 years, and
yeah,
it's but then other than that, it's the same bands over and over again. But at the same time, again, it's just nice to be able to see that and hope that it does come to fruition. Because I do have tickets to one here in Northern Virginia, that I'm really, really looking forward to, and be able to see that, that reunion of Mudvayne for the first time, in 12 years or however long it's been. And
For sure, and like I'm seeing punk festivals popping up here. Like there's one in Arizona here this weekend. There's
Yep.
some in California in the fall, and yeah, I mean, it's just like it gives you some hope because we've always been told that was the first thing to close, the last thing to open. So if you can see big festivals, even club shows in front of 50 people, just seeing that just like gives you a little glimmer of hope. It's really positive.
yeah, I'm seeing those ones I've started to see here at least more so in the fall. Like once
Yeah.
all the once all the outside stuff is done. I haven't seen much club or even arena shows booked yet. I do have tickets to one in November, a small club in Baltimore. But yeah, the club shows I haven't seen much of yet. So it's the festivals again. That still gives me hope. But there's so many that are booked, and it's like if one cancels, the other ones are like, okay, you know what? Maybe we won't do this. Oh, maybe then it's just gonna all shut down again. And that's what fear. That's my fear right now. But I think if one goes off, then the rest is just gonna be a domino effect.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to just see how it goes for sure. I think up here, like, I mean, they're being pretty cautious about things. And even though we have caught up quite a bit as far as the vaccinations and stuff with the U.S., I think we're going to be a little slower to open because of that. You jump into it and, not as many people are ready to go as they should be. And then something happens. And then, there's a whole long list of things we could talk about.
Oh, absolutely.
Insurance.
Yeah. On top of that, you guys, as far as the Canada as a whole, definitely doesn't want to mimic what the United States has done. So,
Well, and we don't have the opportunities for outdoor festivals that you do down there as well. So, I mean, there isn't a lot of that going on to begin with, anyways. So, you see some things pop up in Ontario and the occasional thing in Quebec, but they've all moved till next summer. So, they, up here, we also in a lot of those festivals we rely on U.S. bands to be, headliners or middle slots for a lot of these things. And if they can't get across the border, well then they these festivals just figure like it's just best to push to next year until we know. And that's the biggest thing. It's like maybe that could happen in August, but you need to, as you need to announce these things 4 or 5 months in advance, right? Well,
yeah,
we don't know right now, right? So
yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed too is the festival scene down here is huge outdoors, and it's never really been that way up in Canada. So when you guys do get when you're out versus a club versus at a festival show, which one gives you more of a vibe?
I think we kind of do all kinds of things, right? We'll do big outdoor festivals on main stages. We'll do supports for bigger bands. We'll do our own shows, and sometimes we'll play in places that we don't play often and play in front of 50 people in a basement.
Correct.
And I think it kind of all has its own coolness to it. We just did this festival in Colombia about 1.5 years ago, and it was probably the biggest crowd we played for, somewhere around 30,000 people. And it was so special, but you kind of get lost in it a little bit because the stage is so big and people are 40 feet away past the barricade. And, where you're in a club, the next day we played, that was in Medellin, Colombia. The next day we played in Bogota in this little 200 cap room, which was way oversold. And people are right there. I don't know which one I like better. It should have been the big festival, but at the same time, the club show, to have people sing your songs that close to you and give you a hug after the show and stuff, that meant a lot too. So it's, I feel lucky to be able to do all these kind of things and to be able to play. And, it's a joy to be able to play live music.
Yeah, I've always thought the club was, in my opinion, was, more intimate, more special feeling because again, you do get to hear their voices of them singing back to you. At a 30,000 person or 50,000 person festival, their voices get lost and it just sounds like a roar. So you can't really hear them singing to you.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can feel it, but you can't really hear it. And that's the thing that sucks. So while it's cool to say, yeah, I've played in front of 30,000 people, hearing that you can play in front of 500 people and every single one of those people know your songs and did that in 15 different towns, I think is more of an accomplishment.
Yeah, and I always love really good sounding venues, and it's hard to make those big outdoor ones sound good. And not only out front but on the stage too. And so there is a sweet spot, in my opinion. There's a sweet spot of sort of the 500 to 1,000 cap room where I think the engineers on stage and in front can really dial it in. And there's nothing better than be able to hear everything crystal clear. Like I use inner ear monitors, but even still with that, every show is different. And there's been some pretty good highlights of that sort of 500 cap room where everything just sounds pristine and I just love it.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I mean, I remember back in the day when I used to tour as well and do gigs and stuff like that, and it was so much fun. For that exact reason. I mean, I remember this one little place where I lived at in Florida at the time. This little pizza joint that held maybe 50 fucking people. And,
Yeah.
But it was the most popular little place for local bands to go to. And it just felt so cool. I mean, there had people eating pizza, families there, so
Yeah.
they're like, whatever, the band's on stage, they don't really care. But the moment you drop an F-bomb, damn it, they're looking at you like, what the hell's wrong with you? Just my kid over here. Like, you know what you were getting into. Don't lie.
I've definitely played a few pizza joints, and really when we toured the States a lot in the late 90s and early 2000s, and most of our shows were, either basement shows where somebody bought a keg and 30 people showed up and you just kind of drank it until it was gone.
Yeah.
Or we'd play outdoor, frat house backyard parties or something like that. So we didn't play a lot of real venues for quite a long time down there. And those are still really special shows and really help shape the character of the band.
Yeah, I was gonna say that right there is the lifeblood of punk music. I mean, you can say that the CBGB club was nothing more than a basement. You know what I'm saying? Because it just had that, that aura about it. That's the lifeblood of punk. It was always, fuck the establishment. We're not going to go play huge arena tours. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We just want to have fun and speak to our fans. And I love hearing that those were the most special for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's cool that you brought up CBGBs because we definitely played it a couple times before it closed down, and it was cool to be there. I mean, for a band from a small town, relatively small, city in Canada, it's this all seems pretty special.
Yeah, and to walk onto that stage, you could only probably feel the aura of just everyone before you, the Ramones and Black Flag and everybody else is kind of speaking to you in the back of your head going, don't fuck this up.
Yeah, you definitely feel the history. I definitely didn't use that toilet down there. That was something else. There's this old, you probably hear about it, there's this old John downstairs that like doesn't have anything around it, just like this little throne that you walk up to, and I don't think they'd cleaned it in about 30 years. So
wow.
I stayed clear of that. But other than that, stage was awesome. It was fun.
Yeah, I've heard stories about that toilet. That's why I laughed so hard.
Yeah.
So, one of the things about this show that I liked, that's so special to me is the fact that, when a band comes on, we don't just sit there and talk about just the music or just, just this or just that. We like to deep dive into other things going on because that's just part of what the show is. That's what it's
awesome.
built on. Especially now being, and I haven't really talked about it too much this month, and I'll tell you why too. But this month is National or World Mental Health Month, and it's this show is based on mental health straight up. It's where music and mental health meet, because when life tells you to suck it up, we tell life to suck it. I mean, that's exactly where the name of the show comes from. So through all this, going through this and now seeing, this baby that you guys have birthed, that you haven't done in a few years now, come to life, and the struggles and stuff like that, how do you guys deal with that kind of stuff? Especially because you said you love being on the road. Some bands can't fucking stand it. I mean, that being on the road is what almost broke up great bands like Coheed and Cambria. So, what, as far as, a band that's been around for 20 plus years now, how do you guys keep marching on, and how do you guys keep your mental health in check, and how do you guys make sure that the bonds that you have as a family also stick with you and your actual blood family?
Yeah, it's a balance for sure. This has been a tough year mentally for us, and um, you know, we're a tight band, like the guys that are in the band. We talk a lot, and you know, it's okay to say like I'm having a rough go right now with things, and the other guys are there to sort of, you know, pop you up and try to, you know, try to be supportive, even though we don't get to see each other all that much. I have a young son, and I have you know, my wife here as well, and they know how hard it is that I can't be out there. But you know, this is also, I try to look at it as a silver lining. You know, not only did I get to spend really great time with my son, who I wouldn't have seen as much this year. We got to put together a record, so we tried to make the best out of things. And you know, the third song, "The Ides," on our record is, you know, is about struggling with mental health and not feeling adequate, and you know, really feeling if you're good enough for the person you're with or the people that you're around yourself. So um, it is a pretty personal song. It's not exactly, you know, there's definitely, you are kind of exploring different topics by going into that kind of thing and being vulnerable. But it, you know, this has been a hard time for a lot of people. And if I can just kind of narrow in on the music industry, not only just the bands, but the techs and the engineers and the promoters and the festival people that rely on this to feed their families, this has been a real tough go. So, um, you know, some of them aren't here with us anymore, which is terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. You know, I've read studies where people are talking about, whether it be COVID, related deaths or suicide related deaths or mental health related deaths over the last year have skyrocketed. But then at the same time, I've heard that it's way down versus previous years. I don't know what to believe, but either way, all I know is that, mental health has been more in the eye of, people in the last year because of what we've seen, because we haven't been able to go out and explore face to face, so everything's on the internet. We're hearing things, we're talking to people more via like this, or just
Mhm.
talking on social media, and things get passed around a lot quicker now than ever before. And to see it, you know the way it has been, it's just really really heartbreaking, because there are some people around that aren't around anymore due to these things that just really suck. I mean, I'm getting divorced because of the pandemic. Well, not necessarily, but we realized, hey, oh, this is not good for us. After 8 months of sitting in solitary, basically confinement, we were just kind of like, oh, we don't really work that well, and that sucks. And it's been it's been 7 months. Holy shit. Um,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And yeah, I agree. And like, you know, I have a lot of friends in the States, and I feel for them because your government hasn't taken care of its people at all.
no.
And that's terrible. You know, they throw you crumbs every once in a while they pack into some other bill to piss away money, but they won't help, you know, average Americans. And it's hard for me to see, like in Canada here, there's a lot of people that are struggling, but there's been programs that have set up for people that are, you know, musicians or contractors, where maybe they wouldn't be on unemployment, but they've gotten what's called the CERB, which basically took care of people for 6 months, gave them a couple of grand a month. And that happens in places in Europe, as most countries in Europe are giving people, you know, some sort of, you know, universal basic income. And it's crazy to me that it's not a surprise, but it's sad that once again, you know, Americans are being left out to dry.
Yeah, and I've said this 1,000 times on this show, but the fact that over the last year, or during last year, I should say, because not so much this year because it's over, but last year when it was all in the thick of it, suicide rates, BLM, you know, then throw in a bunch of transgender bullshit and all this other stuff that's going on. We have all this crap going on in this country, and all of a sudden, the only thing that those fucking people in the Capitol, which is 45 minutes that way from me, all they cared about was getting reelected and saying
Yeah.
the right things instead of actually doing the right things.
Yeah.
And so many people are suffering. It's ridiculous.
Well, and you're right. And the stuff that's gone on there last year, people are screaming at the rooftops, and it's not being heard.
Yeah. And now, to take our eyes off of the Black Lives Matter, movement and all this other stuff, now they focus their attention on hating on the LGBTQ community again. And now it's just like, why are we hating on people? It's like, I have some really close friends that are hardcore into the LGBTQ community. I have some trans friends. I've got some, pansexual friends, and my daughter's gay. Just all these different things, and to see like the shift. It's like, oh, last year, let's go ahead and Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Oh, now let's go ahead and let's not talk about that anymore. Let's go ahead and just pick on somebody new. And it's like, why? It's given me ammunition to have a bunch of different topics and a bunch of different shows on these types of matters, and it's giving you guys ammunition to write music about and stuff like that. But why is it even happening in the begin with? And it's just because again, it's all about political power. So like on the right side over here, the conservatives are like, we need to keep it Christian, 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 Christian. And then over here is like, why can't we just live life happily? Why do we have to worry about this or that? And then they're like, no, but we're gonna fight you, and it's so bad. And now, even after the voting is over, the campaigning is over, everyone's in their seats. Now it's just the people, us, individual, regular citizens, still infighting about who's right and who's wrong. And it's just like, all we're doing is making it worse and giving them more ammunition.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and quite often I have to just like tune out from it. I can't watch the stuff anymore, for my own mental health. I can't keep tuning into U.S. politics. Like I follow it so often, and it's heartbreaking. And you're right. You're like, if you're somebody that is a progressive, or you think that like other people should be treated properly and equally, and then you have this election, and then the other guy gets in, and it's like, oh well, same bullshit, right? Like it's there's still fighting wars that shouldn't be fought, and spending money left, right, and center for the upper class, and basically ignoring everybody else again. So really, what's changed other than maybe something a little bit different than who was there before, for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned fighting wars. We're still, in many other countries, helping other countries or fighting battles in other countries and doing this and that. But
helping is a really funny word.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm using that very loosely.
Yeah.
But the sad thing about it is, right now, the biggest war right now is here in the States. I mean, literally right now we're in a civil war of words. I mean, yeah, there's still murder and everything else like that, but we're not actually going to like battles, but the battles are being fought, on the steps of Congress or on social media. And we literally, I mean, people are going to say you're retarded, but whatever, I see it more now than ever. It's a civil war of words in this country, and it's sad. It really is. And for people like me that suffer from mental health issues, and like you just said, you can't watch it because of mental health issues, it just makes me sad for this country. And I'm hoping that, the stuff that was going on here isn't going on everywhere else. I hope that you guys never have to worry about a transgender bill being passed to where fucking kids can't play sports just because they're boys playing with girls. That makes me sad. It makes me sick to my stomach.
I hate to break it to you, but that stuff does happen here too. Just, maybe not to the extent that it does in places in the States, but I live in a very conservative province, and our provincial government has not been kind to certain people in our province as well. And it doesn't get the spotlight that things do in the States, or the press, but we see it, and it's heartbreaking as well. And if you go back to our history too, our country has not been too kind to our indigenous people here too. So
that I know.
Don't wipe Canada with a rosy brush, because we've got a lot of fucking problems here.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's tough to hear, and it's tough to see, and I don't know. It's a big topic of conversation, and it weighs on you too, right? Like you try to do the best thing you can for your family and yourselves, but you have to have empathy for people around you. And I agree with you. Like, we have to stop this fighting and start doing, what I think is right. And I guess maybe some people don't feel that same way, but I think there has to be an equality amongst everyone.
Yeah, and it's it's funny that you mentioned that, because the thing about it is, when I just said, I hope it never comes there. I knew it was there, but at the same time, I didn't know it was at the extent that you were talking about, because you're right. It's not politicized the same way. It's not all over the news here. I mean, like it is here. I tried Googling it and tried reading some articles about it. I couldn't find much. And that could just be Google blocking it, saying you don't need to know about Canada. Who knows? But at the same time, it could just be because it's like you said, it's not all over. It's not all over the place like it is here, and that makes me sad. That means it's not being talked about as much on the news and in the press like it is being talked about here, because now we've got, again, two different sides, but it's everywhere. Everywhere you turn.
I tend not to watch the news too much. I think like I'm more on Twitter, and I sort of see, people speak a little more freely there.
Of course.
And of course you got to filter that, see who's where the information is coming from. But you do have people talking about it probably a little more directly there. And people definitely have their opinions on things there as well. So I don't really watch the big, CNNs and whatever else.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to. So I see it all too often. Yeah, but again, for the sake of and I'm talking to the audience, not necessarily you, but for the sake of mental health and the success of my country, your country, England, all the countries that are going through these things right now, because I know even in Great Britain they're going through the same shit that you and I are going through. I've talked to a couple punk bands over there. One was Rawles, who we had a conversation literally for an hour just about the comparisons of. We didn't talk about music at all. We literally talked about the comparisons of England versus the U.S. and all the different crap that we're going through, and I know that they're going through a lot of that same stuff, and it's just. It's sad that in 2021 we're still having these types of issues, and people are still dying for things that they can't control, whether it be mental health issues, being transgender, being LGBTQ, being a religious nut. If you want to be a religious nut, that's fine. Please be a religious nut. That gives you faith. That gives you hope. I am all for it. But don't spread hate because of it. And that's where the biggest problem is that hate spread. And this world, is really, really down and out. And we got to find a way to get back to what it was. And I honestly think that it's been worse over the last year, or at least in the eyes, the perception that it's worse in the last year, because entertainment hasn't been there for us. We haven't been able to go to the movies. We haven't been able to go to concerts. We haven't been able to go to see a stand-up comedy show. We haven't been able to do all these things. So now we have nothing more to do but stay on Twitter, talk shit, go on TikTok and make stupid fucking videos and hate on each other. But I think that the moment that all these things that come back, I think we're going to I don't know if we're going to say we're necessarily going to forget about all of it. But at the same time, it's going to be easier to deal with, I think.
Yeah, I think it's hard to predict, but I think you're probably right that, some of this will sort of settle down a little bit. The internet's kind of you can have all the information that you want in the world, and unfortunately not all of it's true. And it definitely, depending on which side of the fence you're on, it can be pretty polarizing. And I think, it's unfortunate that this last year has been a lot of people sitting at home sort of digging into things, and I think it's definitely snowballed. Because you're able to sort of have this back and forth with people in real time, and it's probably accelerated some disagreements, tenfold probably than what it used to be, right? So I think there is definitely an element to that. So I'm hoping that maybe by next year, when things hopefully will get a little easier on things, people will kind of step away from the fire a little bit and kind of back off and try to find more commonalities between ourselves and our divisions.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. And the whole, well, not the whole thing, because I talk about it anyway, but I do find it ironic that, this whole conversation, which I'm now leading back into the new album, the title of the new album is Hindsight is the Sixth Sense, which, definitely speaks volumes for the world today. Was that a conscious decision?
I mean, it definitely had some impact when we came up with the name. All the titles of our albums are 5 words and 6 syllables. So we sort of have these parameters that we've sort of put ourselves in, that when we think of a new album, I spent about a week sort of jotting down a bunch of ideas that I'd had, and none of them were really sticking to me. And then we kind of brought it up one day in the studio, and Casey, our drummer, was like, "Oh, how about Hindsight is a Sixth Sense?" And we're like, "Oh, that's awesome. What was I doing the last week?" And so then, we took it to our the person that designed the artist that designed the front cover, Heather, and she was able to sort of come up with a concept afterwards. But yeah, it really does tell you a little bit. It's like, if I only had that hindsight, then maybe I wouldn't have made these decisions. And they always say kind of that hindsight is 2020, so you can see it later, but it'd be nice to have that before you made those mistakes.
Yeah, and that's something I didn't really know before, that you said it was always 5 letters. I mean, five words and 6 syllables. Was that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew that. That's interesting. I never noticed that before. That's interesting.
I'll start you from the beginning. Because no one stopped us. Angels live in my town. 'Twas hell, said former child. Fast forward eats the tape, and the Revenge of the Fifth.
Yeah, I remember Revenge of the Fifth was a good album.
Mm.
Oh, such a good album.
Thanks.
No, I need to go
But
back.
yeah, it was an old concept that we kind of lifted from SNFU, because all their album titles used to be seven words. So
Interesting. Now I need to go back and listen to Revenge of the Fifth. That's such a good album. Because I've been listening, like I said, to this one for the last week, like nonstop. It's so good. No problem. And again, to hear other bands talking about you guys and how good this album is, and bands from California, like I said, from DC, all mentioning you guys is, it really made me even want you guys even more. And I was like, Mike, please get me Belvedere. He's like, I got you. So I'm really happy to have you guys, have you with me today and have this conversation, because again, the album is fucking gnarly. The reception has been absolutely redonk. It's just fantastic. So kudos to you guys, and I cannot wait to see you guys back on the road, and hopefully next year you guys hit the States, and I would love to be able to come see you guys, because I've never seen you guys. Obviously you haven't been here since 2001, we talked about. So I would love to be able to come see you guys and jam out with you guys, because it would be fucking amazing.
that'd be great. Yeah, we haven't been to the States since I think '02 or '03, but we haven't been to the DC area since '01. So yeah, that would be great. Yeah, we do have plans at the end of 2022 to start making some shows down there. So yeah, it'd be great to be back there again.
Yep. And the hardcore, and punk scene here in the DC area it's always been alive and well. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they're ready for you.
Here's a fun fact. So I don't know if you knew this, but we had a split CD that came out before Fast Forward Eats the Tape, and we recorded it at Inner Ear Studios in Arlington, Virginia, with Brian Baker and Don Zientara, and that was in 2002. So we actually spent a good week in the DC area, and that was awesome. Not only because of the history with the studio, but also the guys that recorded it. So I like the area a lot, and I can't wait to get back down there.
I did not know that, and that is really cool too, to know that you guys recorded here as well. That's awesome. Yeah, and Arlington's a beautiful area, so I give you kudos on that. But yeah, you guys have made a name for yourself. Stuck around 20 plus years, and still killing it like you did before. And I cannot wait to see what you guys do next, and see you guys back on the road doing what you guys do best. And end next year, a year from now, whatever it is, to be able to see you guys live is going to be a true dream come true for me.
Thanks a lot, Derek. Appreciate that, man.
No problem. Keep doing what you guys doing, and I wish nothing for the best for you guys.
Yeah, you too.
As for everybody else, the links are down below. Check out the new album, Hindsight is a Sixth Sense. It's fucking phenomenal. It's probably one of the best albums I've heard all year so far, so definitely take a look at that. But for everybody else, thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay happy, stay healthy, and as always, stay fucking heavy. We'll see you guys later. Peace.